107 immigrants are reported to have died while in detention in the United States since October 2003, when the Agency for Immigration and Customs Enforcement was created within the Department of Homeland Security. Last August, the Obama administration announced an overhaul of the system. Few facts have been made available about the people who've died and what happened to them. But New York Times immigration reporter Nina Bernstein has been investigated some of their stories and has uncovered new evidence that indicates officials may be deliberately trying to keep facts about their deaths out of the public eye. Her most recent article on the matter appeared in the Times on January 10th. I'm very pleased to welcome Nina Bernstein back to our show today. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
When you were on our show in August, you said these deaths are like windows into a system which is incredibly secretive, but a spokesman for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, Brian P. Hale, promised transparency and greater oversight. We began to see that?
Well, I think there are some good signs. The main thing I think that has been done that's extraordinary in comparison to the past is that there are they actually post on their website new deaths, which, before it was completely secretive. But I have to say that the Freedom of Information documents that I was able to get over the last several months include some from emails from last August that really still show a culture of secrecy in immigration and customs enforcement.
They're trying to stymie inquiries into what's going on?
That's been the history, that definitely.
Is it because some of the officials involved were there before and they may be protecting their own behinds?
Well, I think that's a part of it. Certainly, many of the same people who were overseeing the system before, or key players, are in the same roles.
So what happens when you put in a FOIA request? Do you have to really fight? It's you and the Civil Liberties Union, isn't it?
Well, we haven't been doing this together. It's kind of, we've been on, you could say, parallel tracks. This really, for me, this story really starts 3 years ago with an email that I got from a lawyer I didn't know about a detainee at the Elizabeth Detention Center in New Jersey who had ended up, he'd been badly injured and he'd been put in isolation, and then he'd been taken away more dead than alive, and they didn't know what had happened to him. And my effort to look into this is what led me eventually to file a Freedom of Information request. It took months for me to even get a list on which I recognized the garbled name that had been given to me, that had been passed to me, something like Abubakar. Meanwhile,
he was a Ghanaian tailor?
That's right, a 52-year-old Ghanaian tailor.
And he came to this country legally or illegally?
He came on a tourist visa legally, but he overstayed that visa to work. He really was a part of the fabric of New York, I would say, including sewing these gowns that sold for $2,000 in a boutique in the Village. And he tried very hard and spent a lot of money trying to legalize his status, and he thought that he was on the road to doing so when he went to Africa for a visit and was stopped on his way back at the airport.
And how long was he in detention?
He was in detention for about a year total. I think it was about 9 months at the time that he had this kind of mysterious injury.
Do we know what caused the injury?
According to the records that I have seen, he passed out. He fell in the bathroom area of the dorm backwards and hit his head. But
is that something that just happens?
Well, that's the thing. You really don't know what preceded it. It seems very odd that falling backwards and hitting his head would account for the injuries, the fractured skull and the multiple brain hemorrhages that were eventually discovered. It's all unclear. But
No, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is what we do know is that the signs of intracranial bleeding that experts have told us should have been evident were not evident apparently were missed by the ICE Public Health Service doctors, and they treated him as a disciplinary case.
Wasn't he shackled while he was in the hospital?
Yes, he was. In the medical unit of the detention center, which is run by Corrections Corporation of America, a publicly traded private prison company. He was basically put on the ground, shackled, and we now have video of this. And it's
why was it filmed?
It's part of their procedure, part of policy. Essentially, this was a use of force on a detainee, and it's supposed to be videotaped, essentially to guard against abuse. Curiously, the trip then from the medical unit to the isolation cell, where he was left for 13 hours without treatment, which should have been filmed. Supposedly, the video camera did not function properly. At least we don't have that videotape.